Hi, my name is Brandon Ross. I am doing a presentation on the environmental effects of nitrogen runoff on Nova Scotia marine ecosystems. Some background information. Nitrogen is a chemical found in many fertilizers and manures. This nitrogen chemical is a nutrient for many crops, such as corn, potatoes, apples, wheat, and other native Nova Scotia crops. Many farms use fertilizers to optimize their crop output as well as increase their total yield. This leads to the overuse of fertilizers and maneuvers in cropland. Many crops can only uptake a certain amount of nitrogen, after which they no longer maximize their crop yield. This causes a surplus in nitrogen in the soil. This excess nitrogen does not get absorbed into the crops and then gets washed away by rainfall and other natural causes. The nitrogen flows down towards areas of lower altitude, like to rivers, lakes, bays, and streams, which Nova Scotia has a lot of. Um, as this nitrogen runs down to its final destination, vegetation along the way is able to uptake this excess nitrogen, which alleviates some of the pollution caused by the nitrogen runoff. But up to 50% of the total nitrogen used to fertilize cropland can be washed away. Um, and many of these nitrogens come in forms such as nitrate, ammonia, and nitrous oxide, which are very harmful chemicals to crops, people, and many of the wildlife in the environment. Some more specifics about fertilizer. Fertilizer does not only contain nitrogen, but also phosphorus, potassium, sulfur, magnesium, and calcium. These also increase the crop yield, not as much as nitrogen is the largest limiting factor for increasing crop yields. And within Canada, in 2010, approximately 70% of Canadian cropland was fertilized. This was a 2010 statistic, so the percentages could have changed by now. Again, in 2010, 60.2% of Nova Scotia's cropland used commercial fertilizers. Other fertilizers could have been used on the other percent, like manures and other natural fertilizers other than commercial ones. This was also in 2010, so the statistic might have changed as well. Fertilizers can be incorporated by injection or by leaving it on the surface, which is the most common for farmland. Um, Injection is a much safer and better way to reduce pollution and increase crop yield. Some more effects on wildlife. Nitrogen runoff causes algae bloom. Algae feeds on nitrogen, and due to the nitrogen runoff, algae proliferates a lot, almost at an exponential rate, increasing the amount of algae in the area. This then causes the amount of diversity to decrease, um, as well as nitrogen-loving plants around the area will outcompete other plants that do not need nitrogen as much, causing the diversity to shift even more. Um, the algae will then die off, um, depositing the nitrogen at the bottom of um, the sea, and um, the oxygen levels in the surrounding area will decrease to zero, causing the um, habitat to be no longer viable. This all will change the diversity and ecosystem of the area very drastically. Also, nitrogen has an effect on the acidity of the soil. It will increase rapidly, causing plant roots to decrease in length. This makes soil around it very unstable, um, and will make it more prone to erosion. And in Nova Scotia, we have a lot of wetlands, um, and these wetlands are very prone to erosion already. And with shorter plant roots, it is more harmful for them. Some more effects on the environment. The areas that have excess nitrogen will slowly leak it into the atmosphere via plants decaying and other means. The soil will become very acidic and unfertile, causing many plants that are not acclimatized to this type of soil to die off. Um, the water will become polluted with many foreign nitrogen-based chemicals, like the chemicals I was talking about earlier. Acid rain will fall around the polluted areas. The picture in the top right depicts an area that has suffered acid rain from nitrogen pollution. Um, these nitrogen compounds will enter the atmosphere, causing an increase to the climate change. Um, these nitrogen chemicals currently account for approximately 6% of the total greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Some effects on the residents. Water pollution can affect the drinking water. So nitrogen leaking into drinking water is very harmful and it can cause a lot of health issues among people. Um, Also, areas that rely on fishing for income won't be able to due to this pollution, due to the diversity changes and the oxygen in the water dropping to almost zero, causing all the fish to die off or have to relocate. Um, this pollution can also have negative effects on health, just being around it. The nitrogen gets into the air around and can have a lot of negative effects on human health. Um, Overall economics of the area decreases, like housing and land values. Um, Also, this type of pollution is very expensive to fix, especially in populated areas. Effects on Indigenous peoples specifically. Many Indigenous peoples in Nova Scotia believe in native grassland and fields and crops. These are areas that do not use unnatural fertilizer like commercial fertilizer I was talking about before. They only use natural plant decomposition as well as manure. These are natural fertilizers that they are fine with using. Um, but because nitrogen runoff can move and spread in large distances, Aboriginal land can be affected by this pollution unknowingly and greatly harm their crops that they're growing and negatively affect their way of life. Indigenous peoples in Nova Scotia also depend on eels for many things. It is a staple food source and religious ritual for them. Um, and these eels require high oxygen environments to live in the waters. Like stated before, the algae blooms will cause a decrease in oxygen levels in the water, causing the abundance of eels to severely decrease. Some more discussion on nitrogen pollution. Reductions in fertilizer use have been put in place by the provincial and federal government of Canada. Um, the time of year fertilizer can be applied is now regulated. So before you could apply fertilizer to your crops year round, but now it's limited to spring, early spring, so that natural causes like rain, tides, and other things like that cannot increase the influence of nitrogen pollution. Because of the rainfall in Nova Scotia, um, fertilizing our crops later in the year is has a higher risk for nitrogen pollution. Also, the type of fertilizer implementation is being looked at by many farmers in Nova Scotia to help improve crop output while decreasing runoff possibilities, like to simple application and injection. So simple application is more of uh, natural fertilizers like manure and plant-based um, nitrates, and injection is a form of applying fertilizer to ground without spreading it and causing a lot of damage. They inject it right into the dirt, and this is a lot more safe and causes less pollution, and it's more environmentally friendly and helps a lot more with the crop yields. It is more labor intensive to do this, but it pays off. Um, As for trying to clean up this pollution, it's very expensive and unconventional to do. Cleaning of nitrogen runoff is usually natural, which is the best way. This allows for a more stable rebound of the ecosystem affected, and allows for other harmful chemicals to not get introduced that could possibly cause further issues. Um, Many farms currently and will continue to switch to natural fertilizers due to their benefits, as commercial fertilizers are very specific to some crops, while natural fertilizers are very diverse in their effectiveness and will work with a large variation of crops. Conclusion: nitrogen runoff has been a large issue in Nova Scotia because of its large amount of water bodies. We're known for a lot of rivers and lakes in Nova Scotia and the Bay of Fundy. Um, Policies have been put in place so that pollution of this kind doesn't occur again. Major outbreaks have not occurred in a while. Over time, the effects of nitrogen runoff in Nova Scotia will be felt less and less. They are still currently being felt at this time, but not as significant as in 2010. And they will slowly return to normal. To conclude, the effects of nitrogen runoff in Nova Scotia are becoming less and less prevalent, leading to a better and more healthy environment for all of Nova Scotia. Thank you for listening to my presentation on nitrogen runoff. These are my references. Thank you, and have a good day.